Welcome to Bearing It All with Rose and Crystal.
Where the conversations get real, emotions run raw, and nothing is filtered.
Buckle up, because we're bearing it all, deep diving into everything from motherhood to mental health and everything in between. We want to get to know you, each other, and our bodies, and things are going to get spicy.
Real spicy. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it. Today on Bearing It All, we have Aston Simmonds. Aston is a relationship coach who helps women and couples to start communicating, connect, and recreate their relationships. We love how open she is with her own stories on socials, giving hacks and tips, and writing articles which have been featured in Mamma Mia, The New York Post, and Kidspot, just to name a few. We are so excited to have you here today and unpack some of this, as we all have been in relationships or have been. And so welcome to the pod today, Aston.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to get us kick-started straight away because we're so excited to get into this episode. So let's start with you first. 4 years ago, you got to a point in your own marriage where you seriously thought about divorce, but you're still married. So how did you get to that place where you felt like you were going to be divorcing, and how did you come back from it today to be happily married?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we kind of hit that point. It was after our second child. So I had my daughter, and it really showed all the cracks. I don't know if anyone listening can relate, but when you have children, it really stretches you emotionally, physically, financially. And yeah, a lot.
I feel it.
A lot. And we kind of got away with it with our first. I was that woman who was doing everything, kind of took responsibility for everything, and, was a bit of a perfectionist and just tried to control it all. But by the second, I couldn't physically do that anymore. And the cracks really started to show. And I just got to the point, I remember I was breastfeeding my daughter one night, and I just thought, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like, I already felt so depleted. I didn't feel supported. Our relationship was not looking like I thought a relationship was meant to look.
Yep.
And so those questions started to come in, and I decided after I put my daughter down that night, we'd been fighting, having the same arguments over and over again, feeling like things weren't getting resolved. And I felt like we were kind of done talking about it. So I went to my husband and I basically said to him, look, I'm not happy in this relationship anymore. And honestly, this is the first time I've ever considered that maybe we're not meant to be together forever. Maybe divorce is something that we need to consider. And he was actually shocked, which kind of blew my mind at the time, because I was like, babe, you are in this relationship with me.
You're like, aren't you feeling it?
We are having these arguments together. But it's actually really common that happens, because the way men kind of see that time is very different to women. So my husband was kind of telling himself, well, we've just had kids. It's normal. We're not getting enough sleep. Like, he was kind of justifying all of the things, all of these cracks, and kind of seeing it as normal. Whereas for me, I was like, I can't do another year of this, let alone how much longer. I needed some progress to help me to keep going. So I basically said to him, look, that's how I feel, but I'm actually done arguing about it. I said to him, I want to get help. I want to find a way for us to move forward. And for me, that was either I'm moving forward on my own, and growing and moving forward, or we're moving forward together. And I think the way that I presented it to him with that vulnerability, he really appreciated that, because I hadn't been doing that. Up until that point, I was just complaining, whinging, why aren't you doing this, that kind of thing.
And it would just turn into an argument.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the turning point where it happened. And then I would love to say that, he was like, yes, and came on board straight away, but this is bearing it all, and I tell the truth. And he was not on board. Initially, he was like, okay, well, that sounds great, but he was kind of scared. He didn't know what was going to come up. He thought maybe we'd do all this work and we still wouldn't be together, and then was it a waste of time?
Yeah.
He had a lot of fears around it, and I acknowledged that, but I said to him, to me, what's scarier is staying the same. That is what was scarier for me. So I said to him, look, I respect that, and I still love you, but I'm going to start this journey, and that's what I did. I basically started without him.
Yep.
And it was hard because I felt like I was doing all the work, but I was also getting the benefits of it. So it meant that I was actually receiving what I wanted and getting my needs met, but it wasn't coming from him. And it was hard because I wanted it to be with him, but he just didn't have the capacity at that time. Like, in himself, he wasn't at that place. So I basically went on that journey on my own, you know, started reading books, doing courses, joined like women's groups and women's circles where I could get all those needs met and process what was going on for me. And then this shift kind of happened where I started showing up differently in the relationship. If he was going to try and have the same argument that we kept having over and over again, I didn't fall into that same pattern of like attacking him and, you know, getting bigger and louder like I used to, or I was so critical, like I would be really critical of him. And I just stopped doing those things. And after about 6 months, he just kept kind of looking at me with this look like, what are you doing? You know, because he was like confused. He was like, you look the same, but it doesn't feel the same. And he didn't know what I was doing because he said he wasn't, you know, ready to do it. And he basically said to me, what have you been doing? Because I'm starting to feel like things are, you know, shifting, but I'm not doing anything. And I was like, yeah. And so I shared with him,
You're like, mate, because I am.
Yeah, because I am.
But you know what the funny thing is? I feel like, as you're talking about this, how many people do we know that literally live day to day the same shit, like Groundhog Day, but then they complain about their relationship and never do the work? And we're talking like, I think our parents did it and
100%.
they stayed married and just stayed the same.
I know couples now, to this day, friends of mine as well, that will openly say they think it will get better on its own, maybe after the kids, maybe after this. It's always waiting till after something. And I think as well, it's like the idea of relationship coaching or getting help for my relationship has a stigma around it.
100%.
You know, Crystal and I were unpacking something that someone had sent in to us that I spoke to you before we started this, and they were embarrassed to talk about it with their own girlfriends. So she was embarrassed to say, oh, look, I don't know if we're just friends and we haven't been sleeping together, because I think there is a stigma around it of going, oh, well, we're fine.
Yeah.
Or like,
100%.
what's wrong with what's going on in their relationship?
Yeah.
You know.
And the truth of fine, like anytime I have used that word or I hear someone else, the truth is everything's fucked. But it is, because when you say it, you go fine. And, you know, that's what happens because you don't even know where to start.
When has fine ever been fine? Been fine
It's
in
never
a woman?
been fine.
It's like, I'm fine.
It's not good.
I've never said I'm fine and actually be fine.
Yeah, but
Never.
also, like, what word? When would we ever use the word fine? Ever?
No,
I was
you
like,
don't.
Nothing should be just fine.
No. And that's
You're right.
That
It's
is
fucked.
exactly it.
Fine
means
is fucked.
And that's where I got to. I was like in that fine, you know, from the outside everyone was like, you've got the kids, the house, you know, all the tick list off the outside of all the things you should have that will make you happy in a relationship. But I think, like you were saying, the old school kind of measure of success in a relationship is longevity, like being together for a long time. But I know plenty of people who have been together for a long time, but they don't communicate, they don't connect, they
Sleep in different bedrooms.
They sleep in different bedrooms, they don't really care about each other, they don't have joint goals and visions. And like for me, I got to that point where, you know, Adam and I have been together 20 years this year and we're about to celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary. And even then, when this was going on, we'd been together 16 years. And I got to the point of like, this is amazing, but I don't want just a long relationship. I want a deep relationship.
Yeah.
I want to feel like we're evolving, we're growing. Like, I want to feel like we're moving towards things together, not just sitting in this autopilot existing, you know, talking about the bills and work and the kids. And, you know, for me, that just wasn't enough. And I think it used to be enough in a relationship, but I think now in today's world where it's a different territory, people are looking for different things in their relationship. And I do think we want more of that passion, that connection, that intimacy, because we don't just want it to last. We want it to actually feel good
We
on
want
that
to
journey.
live.
100%. You want to feel like you're alive. And that doesn't mean good all the time. So I really encourage tough conversations, and that's exactly what me and my husband had to go through to get where we are today. It was so many tough conversations, so many uncomfortable feelings, facing that shame of feeling like, oh my God, am I going to get a divorce? You know, I come from parents who have been together, I don't know, I think they've celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary. You know, I've come from that. So I totally understand this stigma and this shame. But once I spoke it out and I kind of started sharing vulnerably what I was going through, I was actually met with a lot of women saying, God, like, I can really relate, but you're so brave to talk about this. And I remember thinking, why is it brave to talk about the truth of the challenges that we are all having in our relationships?
Thank you. Can we just get an amen? No joke. Like,
why is that brave?
Why is it brave to talk about things that happen to everybody?
I think it doesn't matter what the subject is. If you're talking about something that's a bit taboo, you're brave.
But I think that's kind of sad because we used to sit around and tell stories. And we didn't used to filter those stories because if we did, they wouldn't have been helpful. Like, how do you learn from somebody if they only tell you the highlights? Like, I know for me, I've learned from people's challenges and their vulnerability. And to me, that is strength. And that's what I really have come for. And that's my intention in sharing my story.
I love that. And also exactly what you're saying, like, if we see everything as perfect, like sometimes we just see the highlight reel, social media. We see the happy Valentine's Day posts. We see the happy couples on socials going to dinner or getting presents or having a love like, oh, I love you. The last 10 years have been the best years of my life. That's a snippet.
Totally.
And I think the movies, everything as well, we grow up with this sense of what love should be, but not what love really is, especially if you end up in a long-term relationship. I love Craig. I loved Craig when I met him. I thought I loved him on my wedding day. I thought I did. And I did. I was in love with him. But the way I love him now
totally different.
Whoa, it's unmeasurable. I even said to him, I didn't think I could love you like this. I do love you even more than I ever thought.
100%.
We have been through some shit.
But I think that's why you love him more today. It's the adversity that creates that depth, that richness. And that's true for my relationship as well. Like, I don't believe that kind of idea out there or that belief that, you know, from marriage it's all downhill. Like, yes, it gets hard. I do think the wedding day is the start of your relationship, not the end. And I think a lot of people think it's the end. We made it.
Yeah.
No, it's actually the start, and the work really begins then. But if you can lean into it and you can see those challenges as a catalyst for your growth, because you need adversity or challenge to grow. Yeah. You don't grow when everything's perfect. And sure, I'd love for it to be easier. I'd love to have not had some of the challenges I've been through, because we've been through so many together in our relationship as well. But I actually wouldn't change it, because I know that's why we have that level of depth and richness, and that's why we were able to recreate it. It's because of the challenges. If it was all perfect and roses, we wouldn't have that same level of connection.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I think too these days, I'm finding with a lot of my friends that have recently separated or divorced, when it gets too hard,
100%,
they're jumping ship. Like, I can't deal with this. It's too much. You're too much. Like, the arguing, they don't even want to like sort it out. It's kind of just like, they just rather say it's done than put in any work.
Yeah. And I think, again, there's that narrative that we've been sold from the media and like Disney, that basically they get married and then the movie stops.
Yes.
It stops at the wedding. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, literally every Disney film.
They lived happily ever after.
It's every bloody movie, actually.
Every bloody movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that.
Yeah, same.
I love a romantic.
I'm such a romantic, but I think we need to start creating some movies where we do like the follow-up sequel.
Look, Sex and the City has been a good one for that.
Yeah. I think series and stuff that are just realistic.
Yeah, like what actually happens when you get home? What actually happens after the honeymoon?
What happens when you've got years, can I be honest? Years of boring.
Yep.
What I mean by years of boring is, for me, okay, I do work full-time hours, but I am back in with the kids.
Yeah.
So I've gone, like I have 2 older kids and 2 younger kids, so 2 toddlers. So I'm like primary parent.
Yep.
And I'm calling it the years of boring because at the moment, nothing super exciting's happened. We don't have a wedding coming up. Yep. We're not planning to have another baby. Like our baby days are over. Sex is, what it is.
Yeah. Well, they call it parent sex.
It's parent sex, which to be honest with you, it's so fucked.
Yeah. It's not that same level of connection.
Kids. You still have 2 in your bed, mate.
Yeah, man. Like in my bed, or they're knocking at the door, even if you're trying to, just before, we're going to have a shower. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to just bend over the sink and cop one. Yeah. And you know what I mean? But just to get a bit of connection, I'm feeling like, Crystal said before, like those groundhog days, they're just the same shit, trying to fit in a bit of nookie, trying to pay the bills, the same chats. You're going to work 9 to 5, and if you're lucky on a Saturday and Sunday, not everyone has kids, but like the Saturday and Sunday is either like sports for them, the kids, parties, events, engagements. Like we could be doing work because Crystal and I both like have our own businesses. It's for me. I'm feeling like I'm in those a bit boring. Where's the boring years in the happily ever afters? Because they exist
and they do, and we have definitely had them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I do think there's meant to be seasons. This stage can be sometimes termed like the roommate stage. So you're kind of passing in the hallway,
bumping in the fridge,
that kind of thing, and you kind of are running on autopilot. But there are some little things that you can do, because that's what Adam and I found is it wasn't the big things. So it wasn't the big weekends away, the big holidays, the romantic dinners. It wasn't those big things now in this season that actually made a difference. It was the little things that were compounding, or the lack of those little things that was compounding. So I'm talking like something that I share that I started to do was I call it the happy dog hack. So when my husband was coming in from work, we don't have a dog, but I called it happy dog hack because my kids would be like, Dad's home, and would run to the door literally like a happy dog. And one day I was like, oh, like he looks so excited to see them. Like, why isn't he excited like that to see me? And then I kind of thought, well, hang on a minute. When he comes in the door, I don't even sometimes go and greet him.
I am guilty.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm on my phone or I'm cooking and no judgment, because I was doing the same. But I was like, if I want him to greet me with that level of excitement and to actually be excited to come and support me in the home for the like crazy dinner period with the kids, maybe I need to greet him at the door. And so for months, that's what I did. I would like bolt to the door to try and beat the kids. And it
I feel so guilty right now. My husband will come home and he'll be like, hi guys, I'm home. And kind of waits for somebody to say hello. And sometimes he doesn't.
And they have 4 dogs, so the dogs are greeting him.
Yes. Good. I'm so glad the dogs are there. But
the dogs greet him.
I really don't feel guilty about it, because I don't believe that guilt or shame helps us make change. For me, I just acknowledged in that moment, I want to experience connection with him. And so many women I speak to, when their men come home, really what they want is to be held. Like, you might have had a tough day with the kids or a hard day at work, and really you just want to be held. But instead of going over to him and holding him and giving him a hug, we sometimes be like, oh, my day was this, and then, and oh, it's okay for you, and da-da-da. And then we wonder why they're not holding us or like putting their arms out. And I get it. Like, I've done that too. But I made this tiny little shift. And I did it for months without telling him. And then I asked him, and I wrote an article on it because I was just mind blown. I asked him months later, like, what the impact of that was on him. And we were laying in bed, and he actually said to me, babe, he got tears in his eyes. He said, that was actually everything. He said, I have never felt so appreciated by you than those few months where you were making that really big effort to show me that you were even just happy to see me. And
how simple is that?
So simple.
Honestly.
So simple.
Pulled me up on this.
Yeah.
I've told you about this. He, I was actually offended. Like, he was the happy dog.
Yeah.
So he would come in and he would be excited to see me because obviously he's worked away, but then he does do long hours. I was such an asshole. But I would be in the kitchen or whatever.
Cooking,
or when we sort of swap roles at that time, because I have work to do as well. not just like around content, but then like I work through the night at times, like to finish things in my job without the kids like in my ear hole.
Yes.
And he would come up in the kitchen and put his arms around me and greet me every single day, and he would try to kiss me and I'd just be like, cheek.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had to say one day, he's like, you know, that is so offensive. I don't even need 2 minutes of your time. It's like 30 seconds. So I turned around and I huffed. I would huff every single day that he'd do it. I'd be like, and I was like, I can't describe, like, obviously it's a podcast. So I was just like, I turned to him and I'd be like, yeah, are you happy now? Like, here's my kiss.
But I totally get that, because I had a season of this, and it's because you're already empty. Yeah. So again, don't like blame yourself. It feels like another demand, like someone else's need that you need to meet.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because I was like, oh, so I've got to bloody run to the door.
Yes,
for
so
him.
many women say this.
How about but he was coming to me. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But about the thought of like running to him, I'm like, fuck you. Like, come to me.
Totally
if you want love and affection, I'll give it to you. Oh, no, I wouldn't actually. See? I just admitted in the same sentence,
100%.
like if I didn't go to him, he wasn't going to come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
This is the, I call it like the chicken and the egg, like who goes first kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because women do a lot. They really do a lot, and it can feel like, why do I have to do more to get what I already deserve? And that it can appear like that, and I totally get that. The first shift that I would recommend here is to start meeting your needs. Like when you are that depleted, and I mean again in small ways, like you're a mum, you're busy, it's not, it's you, if you're not filling yourself up and you don't feel like your needs are being acknowledged, it will feel like someone else is taking from you. And that's where the resentment builds. And so the first thing I would say is, you know, even before he comes home, can you take 5 minutes to go and breathe or dance? Like I love dancing. Music helps me to just like drop into my body. I love to like, you know, just pretend I'm in like a, you know, out in the club, like don't get to do that anymore. So, you know, drop it like it's hot in my kitchen, and then meet that need for myself. And then it makes it so much easier to meet that need for him. And what I will say is I thought that I was doing this for him, and it was great that he got a benefit. But like I said, I wanted to be held. And I was asking for it, but I was asking for it in the wrong way, like kind of demanding it, like with my arms closed, like, why aren't you giving me what I need? And then when I kind of looked at that, I was like, well, Aston, are you open or are you closed right now? And I was closed. And in your example, you were closed off to Craig. And that's why it felt like offensive to him, is because that was like a bid for, they call it like a bid for connection or a bid for love. And there's so many times where we do these bids where we unintentionally and unconsciously erode the bid for love or the bid for connection.
Oh, it got to a point, we had a full-blown argument over it. So he was like, you were so, like, he was like, fine, I'm not even going to bother with you anymore. And I was like, whoa. And then I exploded as in like, I am fucking doing dinner. I've got this. Look at them. They've drawn on the wall. They drew a massive smiley face on the back of the door with permanent marker. My brother had just like painted the doors for us. I was like, go fuck yourself. You know, you want this hug. I was like, go and do something and then come and like see me. And I was like, whoa, it was a massive, it was disgusting. But he ended up coming with me and saying, Rose, like, because time is a thing for me as well. Like, I don't understand. I'm not good with time management. I'm not good with time in my head.
Neither am I.
So he was like, it literally takes no time. He's like, it's a hug, it's 30 seconds, and then you can 100% get back to what you're doing. This is after the fact.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it is only 30 seconds.
Yeah, but I would say it's less about the time, like that's the surface level. It's less about the time. It's less about... I think, you know, you want to be able to, but you're in that moment when you're cooking, you're in that zone. You've probably had like how much happened in that day. And this is hard for women, especially who are mums and then, have a business as well, to transition.
It's overstimulating.
Yeah. How do we transition between all these roles? And it is a dance, and the demand for that transition, I think, has just got like next level. And I do think women today have been conditioned to live from their masculine, which is very productive. Like, It's great because it's productive, but we don't have that chance to rest. You know, our men want that nurturing, loving, warm side of us.
This is both of us, babe. What are you talking about, me? This is both of us.
I had this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely both of us, but I'm looking at you and you're just giving me that
grin. Because
we're
just like, we're independent women.
Yes.
We're going to
100%.
make the monies.
Yes.
We're going to do this.
Yep.
Just got big goals.
Big
and then our
dreams, yeah.
husbands kind of just like follow along behind us. Like,
Yes.
oh, yeah,
And-
kind of want to be supportive, but don't know what the thing she fucking wants to do now because
Yes.
she's always doing something different.
100%. Yep. And this is a common problem, especially with the biz babes. And it's something I'm working on for business women because I've noticed it's a gap that they kind of don't fit into I help a lot of parents. They kind of don't fit in there. They wouldn't necessarily go see a counsellor because they're successful. They're, often don't like to admit they're struggling, like they're high achievers, they're, go-getters. So they need something in the middle. And I've really noticed with a lot of business women that this happens, and like they'll say to me that, I'm like killing it at work and like doing all these amazing things. And then I come home and I'm like, yeah, let's go to my partner. And he's kind of like, babe, I'm not attracted to that. And the issue there is just that there hasn't been a transition. Like you can do the masculine go, go, go. It has a place. Like we need both masculine and feminine. Even as women, we need both. I describe the masculine as like the container, and then the feminine is like your expression of it. But you need that container. Like the podcast is your container, and then you come on here and you express what you want to express. Yep. So that kind of analogy. But if you just rely on the masculine container and you don't have that authentic expression of the feminine, you are going to find yourself burning out or like ticking the boxes but not feeling lit up by it. And that's the gift of the feminine. It's that energy, that essence inside, and you can do certain things to help you transition through that. Like I know for a lot of the boss babes, I recommend when you come home or you finish your day, before you even go home, can you go for a walk on the beach? Can you go for a swim? Can you go to a dance class? Can you do something that helps you, or even just come home and shower so that you're transitioning from that?
I feel like I come home and I go back into work from home.
To like mum mode or just more work?
No, it's more work.
Yeah.
So sometimes my kids and my husband both are craving connection with me.
Yeah.
And I'm like putting my hand in their face. I just need to get this last email done. I've just got to take this last phone call. Yeah. And then an hour or two has passed and I'm still doing it.
So like the boundaries between work and
home life.
Yeah.
And then like I'll give an example. Last night, hubby wanted to watch. We watch stupid TV shows together. Like
that can be a form of connection.
We're still living like Geordie Shore and Jersey Shore days. I don't even know why we do this. It's shit to watch, but we watch it together.
Beautiful.
Anyways, puts on an episode. Within 5 minutes, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
And he's literally, he does this thing in front of my face. He like waves his hand and I'll see the hand. I'm like, yep, still awake. And he'll be like, I can see your eyes are closed.
Yeah. And honestly,
or I'll be like,
I just have so much love for you because I just feel like women, we're still in this like phase of like fighting, proving like our value and our worth. And for some reason, we've taken it to believe that we need to do more.
Yeah.
And I actually think the answer is we need to do less. And it's really hard.
I don't know how to do
for
that.
women. It's so hard. And literally, I struggle with this. I wrote an article for Mamma Mia about it because about 4 years ago, I went through this kind of transition. I felt like I was working all the time. I didn't know how to rest. I actually thought that rest was lazy and like you weren't meant to do it. And I was conditioned into that. I think so many of us have been conditioned into that.
That's how I was brought up.
Same. Yeah. Literally. I wasn't allowed to sleep in.
No, oh my God.
You know, if you got up.
Before you got here, pre-pod chat.
Yeah.
I was literally saying to Crystal, my parents, if it was the weekend, everyone else was going out with their friends. Everybody was sleeping until 12. I don't even know what that's like.
Yeah.
My dad would open the bedroom door and be like, get up, you're wasting your day.
Yeah.
And I would be like called lazy, also like, having undiagnosed ADHD and all of that. It's like, you're lazy, you don't listen, you're not paying attention. So one of my biggest fears is being perceived as lazy. And I cannot sit down.
Yeah.
even if it's not to do work, like
Yes.
Crystal's saying after work, for me it's like, well, then go and clean the house.
Yes.
Go and put on so I don't sit in front of the TV without a bucket of washing in front of me.
Yes.
So at all stages
It's
of
like
my
productive.
relaxation.
Yes.
And then I look at Cray.
Yeah, and I was
And
going
I'm
to say
like,
you get angry at him.
You're like, because he's not doing that. When he sits on the couch and he just rests, I'm
Yeah.
like, he's lazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
And-
see, for me, it's I'm constantly working that now my husband has become the housewife.
Yes.
And he does, I'm not even going to lie, guys, everything.
Yep.
He does the washing, the making of the beds, the mopping, the vacuuming, and sometimes the cooking
On top of his full-time
on
job.
top of his full-time job. So I feel
Celebrating
like
him.
I love that he
Yeah,
does that. And I
celebrating
tell
him.
people all the time, he thinks I'm taking the piss out of him when I talk about it. But I actually am so grateful that he does all those things, because I just think if he didn't do it, we'd be living in a fucking shamble of a house.
Yeah, and well, this is what I like to remind like couples is you're a team. So he's not doing it for you. You're a partnership.
Yeah.
So they're your joint children,
Yes.
you know. So it's so weird how women do this. Like if men are working and we're with the kids, it's kind of like we're in our roles. Like these gender roles aren't serving us today.
Oh my
you know,
God.
because women are working. Men want to spend more time with the kids. Like we just went on a business, like a business retreat in Bali. I was at the business retreat and my husband was with the kids.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, oh, wow, you know, how do you do that? I'm like, because we don't fall into the gender roles that don't work for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
My husband wants more time with the kids. He said to me he loved the routine they had for those 4 days and that he missed it. He missed that time with them. He knows them better now. I've definitely got a relationship with them. I breastfed them, I birthed them, like I've done my job.
Yeah.
You know, and we do that dance, but I think that there's even this stigma even around that today that yes, I think women deserve to step up and do, you know, follow their dreams, but also remember that you've supported his dreams as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
But there's definitely a bit of resentment there towards
Yes.
me from him.
Yes.
That I come home and I continue working, and he's
Yeah.
like, there's things that need to be done around the house
Yeah.
that then he's feeling like he has to pick up the slack because
Yes.
I'm sitting on my laptop.
Yeah.
He has to pick up the slack, and then he gets a bit mad at me, and then when we want to spend time together, I fall asleep.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And this, there was something I wanted to circle back to as well with that argument. So I will, with that whole lazy thing,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we had it too, and it's really common. But so for this, what I would say is, and this is what we had to do, is recreate our relationship. And that's why I call it recreate. For your business, you would have a business plan, and, you know, so that you know where you're going and what you're doing. We need those for our relationship, and we need them for every season. So it doesn't have to literally look like a business plan. It's a lot more sexy and enjoyable than that. But you at least need to have a mission or a vision or a purpose for this season. And for this season right now, for you guys to achieve your goals, you need to be working more, and he needs to be with the kids. But there needs to be this joint collaboration and conversation that it's not, because you're not just doing this for you. Like, yes, you want to do this, but
It's for us, like, at the end of the
it's for
day.
us. Definitely. You have dreams about, you know, taking your kids away and trips as a family. Like, that's, and if you can.
My dream is to make him retire, to be honest.
100%.
And
Yeah.
even though he's definitely, so my husband's Anglo-Indian.
Yes.
So from his background, definitely the man plays a very big role in a marriage.
Yes.
Stereotypical,
And he is always supportive of whatever I want to do. He's never ever said no to me. Like,
Yeah.
I've owned multiple businesses. I've lost money, made money.
Yeah.
He's never ever said no to me. But I think at the end of the day, if I said to him, hey, we're at a point where you can retire, I don't even know if he would want to, because
Yeah.
he still wants to have that,
Yeah.
Yes.
like, bringing in his own kind of money.
Yes.
But that's like my goal.
Yeah,
That's
and-
why I work hard.
And I would also then bring this conversation to him and go, okay, well, maybe he doesn't have to retire, but maybe there could be a day, a month where it's just you and him. You know, so it's important when you're having this having these conversations or sharing your goals with each other that you're listening to both sides and even asking, why do you want to retire him? I think it's because you want more time with him as well. And
I want him to have less pressure on him.
yeah, beautiful.
It's for him.
Beautiful.
Because you love him.
Yeah.
And-
I see how hard he works.
Yeah, and maybe because it affects how you experience him. Like when he has pressure on him, he's probably stressed. There's probably
Yeah.
a fun side of him that you're not experiencing, or a side of him where he used to kind of like sweep you off your feet, or, you know, and maybe you miss that side of him and he can't access that right now under all that pressure. But if you have a vision and you're both you sell each other into the vision, but you have to allow the collaboration, because otherwise you're not moving towards it together for us. But it definitely is, it's a transition that so many couples are going through, because most, both parents are working and, things are expensive, life is changing. And, but I do think this vision piece is the piece that has got us through so many hard times.
Yeah.
If we know why we're doing it and where we're going, and we've both signed up for that journey, then it makes it easier to deal with those challenges, and to keep going even when it's hard, because it is hard.
I think it's just a lot deeper than just a few things. Same with Rose. It's a multitude of things that are affecting the relationship. Like for us, our son's just turned 13.
Yeah.
He has suffered a little bit of mental health things over the years. My dad actually took his own life 2 years ago, and that impacted my son heavily. And now, after his death, we went through a little bump, then it got really good, and now we're at the bump again.
Yeah.
And it's affecting our relationship because we both parent differently.
Yes.
I take mental health very seriously. Obviously, with Dad's death now, I think of mental health so differently.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware that I cannot lose my son the same way.
Yes.
So those arguments we have constantly about how are we dealing with this situation on top of everything else. It's so full on.
It is. And our kids do impact our relationship 100%, and the way we parent does. And
oh my God, yeah.
Something I see across parents is women parent one way and men parent another. They even did a study once where they got a group of kids in a room and all the dads came in, and the kids were hanging off the roof, testing all the boundaries, the place was a pigsty. Then the dads left, and then the mums came in, and everything was controlled. Everybody was sitting.
That's opposite in my household.
Opposite.
They're crazy and mental around me.
Around you,
and then Dad comes home and they're like, shh, Dad's home.
Yeah. Well, is he the one that maybe does the disciplining?
He's definitely a stronger parent than me.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of let's be besties and do a TikTok in the lounge room.
Yeah.
But how do you navigate
that
different parenting styles? Because that is massive.
It is. It's huge. And it could literally be a podcast on its own. But how can I simplify it? Because we had the same challenge when we became parents, and you kind of don't notice it as a parent, I don't think, until your kids are about maybe 2.5, 3. I remember calling my mum being like, wow, all of a sudden I have to be a parent? Up until 3 was hard.
Until they can talk.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel
and controlling what they need to do and eat. And
it kind of I don't know why, but it kind of came out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, I've got to actually really parent now. And it was challenging. And it really showed our parenting styles because, one, your parenting style comes from your parents. So however your parents, it's called attachment styles. So however your parents related to you is most likely how you're relating to your children. And there'll be one parent that you probably pedestaled, one parent that you wanted to be like, and one parent you would avoid being like at all costs. So you take a bit of a mix mash of both of that and you put that into your parenting. And
that makes sense to
it
me.
makes so much sense, doesn't it, when you learn that? And
if you knew what my dad was like, you would be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone goes, oh my God, it's not confusing now why we're having this challenge. So there's that going on in you, that going on in your partner. And then the other element is just the differences in men and women and how we perceive things, they're biological differences and how we bring that into the relationship with our kids. And then also the masculine and the feminine. So there's all these layers that do impact the way we parent. The thing I try to get across is there is no right or wrong, that there is no perfect way. And even conscious parenting, which is really popular now, does not mean perfect parenting.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we really need to get across, that our obsession with perfection or getting it the right way all of the time actually is impossible and does more damage to our kids than good. They don't need to see us as perfect. They need to see us as humans.
Yeah.
And
man, that's bad.
Yeah. They don't need to see us as perfect. And it's an unrealistic expectation that you can't even meet in yourself.
Yeah.
You're constantly going to be chasing the carrot. And I know for me, growing up, I perceived one of my parents as perfect, and it really messed me up when I became a parent because I thought I should be able to do this. I should be able to do it all.
Yeah.
I should be okay. And all these shoulds really dragged me down and meant that for the first few years, I couldn't even enjoy being a parent because I was just trying so hard to keep my shit together. And then I learned that actually the most powerful thing I needed back then was actually realness and a human being. And more than anything, the ability to repair is what I needed to see. So what I like to say to parents, and even in your relationship, you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's how we learn. The biggest thing is the repair. So even with Craig, when you guys had that, blow up about, not showing affection, those things will happen. The biggest thing is the repair. Whatever happens, you must come back to repair. And in the repair, it's really about taking responsibility for your part and being vulnerable, being real with them. I say to my kids all the time, I don't know all the answers. I didn't deal with that in the best way. My anger took over me. And, I don't know if you watch Disney, Turning Red, if that's a really great one.
Great one.
I watched that with my kids and I explained to them, when you're getting really angry sometimes and you become the anger, that's what it is. And you know what? Mummies are human too. So there's times where I hit a limit and then it just kind of comes out. But what I want to say and what I say to them all the time is it's not your fault. I want you to know that I love you no matter what. And that, I am a human and I'm working this out and figuring it out as I go. And you're helping me and I'm helping you. There's this beautiful, reciprocation that can happen when we're open to not needing to be perfect.
I kind of feel like I'm the stronger parent. I'm the disciplinary. And I can relate to Davin in the sense of like how I know him and all of that. But obviously being brought up very strict myself and sort of not like what you were saying, like I've kind of chosen my battles because I don't want to be that strict either. But then I realised like that when I have, because I'm not a gentle parent, guys. I'm sorry. I am not a gentle parent. I don't know. I can't do it because my kids aren't gentle. Anyway,
I love it.
But I have learnt to apologise to them.
Biggest thing.
So like if I have had a moment where I've gone absolutely ballistic, nutbag level, like I've just, especially with the teenagers, I've had to just go back in there and go, look, I'm so sorry at the way that I exploded at you, but like I just didn't know how to cope with it at the time and I was really frustrated. And then I had the conversation after we're both cooled off. So I've had to learn that as well. So
100%.
Which is really hard. But what I've also had to do is drag Craig in the room as well and make it look like both of us. Not look like it, but like he might not be involved, but I don't want to make it like it's just one person.
Yes.
Because then, especially teenagers, they definitely play us off each other.
Oh, 100%.
So what we have started doing is going into the room together.
Yeah.
That's something like I'm really happy we've started doing. So like even if I'm having the lecture after the fact, he's just standing there and like backing me up or vice versa.
Yeah. And you can have different approaches but still support each other and not make your approaches wrong.
I think that's where I've lost it at the moment.
I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Like we think they have to think the same and do it the same as us.
You were saying this, Chris.
I thought we had to parent the same, to be honest.
No, you don't.
So you can have different parenting
100%
styles.
you can.
And still, I think that is actually what we hear a lot of. And even on socials, like I feel like when I hear about parenting styles in a marriage and relationship, that we were talking about this before, that we thought that you have to be the same, or at 100%. Least like I don't know.
I'd say the key glue is having the same values. So, or having the same values or goals for your family, or like mission for your family. So you can have different perspectives, but you can also have understanding and compassion about those differences. You can kindly acknowledge the differences instead of like brutally judging the differences, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's your approach to that. And I do think as a society we have a hard time accepting differences. We really try and make everybody the same, and I think that's why so many people, it's really common that people think, oh, we should all be the same, and me and my husband, to be on the same page we have to think the same and be the same. Well, I completely disagree with that. It's pretty impossible. You're different people, you're men and women, you're biologically different. different.
Yeah.
You were raised differently. There's so many layers to this.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
really, I think it's an impossible goal, and it will create frustration and resentment because you feel like you're having the same argument over and over again. How we kind of approached this was to come from a place of understanding. So if my husband parented the kids in a different way in a moment, I would, support whatever he was doing. I wouldn't interrupt in the moment because that would also confuse the kids. I would then ask him afterwards, can you share with me what your kind of thinking was around that? I want to understand that approach. And then when he shared with me kind of what it brought up for him or why he did it that way, I then was able to go, okay, well, I can see how you might use that approach to solve this problem. And then he would often say, because of my curiosity, I say, get curious, not furious. So curiosity kills the frustration. Frustration really gets in the way and we don't deal with the problem. So when I was curious, he then was curious back and he'd say to me, well, how would you deal with that situation? And sometimes I would share my approach. Other times I'd go, do you know what? I don't know, because let's also be honest. In the moment, sometimes you're just pulling anything out as a parenting hack. You're hoping it's going to work because there's a lot going on. You're juggling kids and work and the phone's ringing and the washing's just gone off. And
have you had those conversations yet, or have you managed
We've had lots of conversations. Look, I think his intention is always good. He is always trying to support me as a parent.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we had a ban on our son playing any kind of gaming during the week.
Yep.
Last night he said to me, Mum, can I please just play for just 1 hour? And I was like, okay, 1 hour, because I'm the soft parent. I gave in. My husband would have said no. Of course, then he goes and games. The 1 hour's gone by and I've yelled out, Levi, it's time to get off. He's ignored me.
Yeah.
I've been working and let half an hour go by, and then I've gone into the room and said, you've now gone an hour and a half over. Yep, Mum, no worries. Just let me finish this one game. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I should have probably said get off then.
Yes.
Another half an hour has gone by and I've yelled out again, and then my husband's lost it.
Yeah.
He's then stormed in there and been like, your mum has asked you 3 times now to get off and you've ignored her. But then I get mad at him for going off.
And something I want
cycle.
to bring to your attention, which is probably a blind spot for you, is that your son is doing with his gaming what you're doing with your work.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of.
There's no judgment. I say that with so much love.
Yeah.
Because my kids also learnt from me how not to rest. And it took me having a moment of someone pointing that out to me to be going like, wow, sometimes the easiest way to parent our children is to first reparent ourselves.
Yeah.
And instead of, using our words, because they, communication is not just words. It's 7% is the words. Literally 93% is our behaviours, our body language, our energy, our intention.
Yeah.
So, I'm a great talker. Doesn't necessarily mean I was a good communicator. I had to really learn the other 97% and active listening and things like that. So one thing I would say here is if he sees you, because he literally said the things that you say about work. So that could be a strong emotional driver, because I know you care so much about his mental health, for you to start drawing a line in the sand with your work and to come home and actually go, no, I've decided I have done enough today. I know for me, my mantra became my best is enough, and every day I do my best. I'm an over deliverer, and so I'm always doing too much. So I had to really just decide that actually my best is enough today, and that there's always going to be more tomorrow. And I'm here for the long run, so I'm going to get up tomorrow and go again. But I had to learn to rest when I was resting, to work when I was working, to be with my family when I was with my family. Literally, I think the best mental health hack is to be where you are when you are there. And we can teach our kids that only by embodying it and showing them.
Wow, being present basically.
Yeah, and the second thing I would say is to get curious about the emotional need underneath. I would say a lot of women who work too much are really craving connection, or they're craving something else. And it's same for children or husbands. If they're escaping with gaming or YouTube or anything, don't get angry at the behaviour on the surface. Look underneath the behaviour. So what is the emotional need that's not being met that he wants to spend hours escaping and gaming? And it probably is connection.
Yeah.
It might be fun. It could be freedom.
It's definitely fun. I think he's chasing that dopamine hit of like he's on the game and it's like, oh, it's thrilling and it's fun. And
Yeah.
I can't say that 100% of the time when he's at home with us that we can
That's
give him
happening,
that.
Yeah,
No.
and there's not an expectation to, definitely not. But to get curious about how else can we meet that emotional need that's not just gaming.
Yeah.
Could it be, I don't know, a pizza night? Like we love to have family traditions. That helps keep it less boring for us. So like a pizza night or a movie night or like we go out one evening to a place that has like, you know, a outdoor pub that has like a playground and then it forces me out of the house and to connect with my husband, for the kids to play. You know, it kind of change the environment.
Yeah.
Changing the environment
That's
can help,
good.
you know, shift up that dynamic. But I would just get curious about what those emotional needs underneath are and even ask him, you know, if he's open to it. But you've got to have this conversation with no judgment. So you've got to really come from a place of like, hey, I'm really curious, and get interested about what gaming means to him, because that is the number one thing with teenagers. You need to be interested in their world. Don't expect them to be interested in yours. You need to be interested in theirs.
So true.
And I know
Does
it's
this mean I have to
hard.
learn about Fortnite? Cause,
Well,
oh
even
my
just
God.
play and do it and fail,
Yeah.
because even that is connection. Like you don't need to win, but like just being interested in their world, that's connection. So many teenagers
The thing
feel
is,
like
there's another
misunderstood.
bad part to this.
Yes.
So the kids that he games with, I've banned him from seeing. So
Okay.
there's another level
Yes,
of why he
there
wants to
you
game
go.
with these kids
because they're his friends.
they're his
there's
friends.
Connection.
He loves
Yes.
them. They're not good kids. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
Yeah.
going to put my hand up
Yeah.
and say that. They've done
Yeah.
a few things that I'm like, nah, don't
Yeah.
want my son hanging around that.
Yeah.
So
And that's understandable
the
as a
gaming
parent.
thing is like a way for him to still keep in contact with them. And that's
Yes.
why that's why I kind
There's
of
his
allow it a little bit.
connection
Yeah.
Because I won't let
Yeah.
him see them face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can we meet that need of connection in another way so he doesn't need to depend on this so much?
Yeah.
And just getting curious. Like, you don't have to solve this right now, but just getting curious and even asking him, like, what does fun look like to you now that you're a 13-year-old? Because like even asking yourself, what does fun look like to you now that you're at the stage of life you are now? Like, because I know I had to ask myself that. I became like the fun police at one point. I said to my husband, like, we don't even have fun anymore. And he was like, I know, we're just so serious. And I said to him, I don't even know what fun is. Like, I had to like,
Then how do you make
open
fun
that.
in your relationship then? How do you create that again in the autopilot? Like,
in
how do
this,
we get out
yes.
of autopilot?
yeah, well, definitely bringing back the fun. I'd say the vision helps, so getting clear on, you know, where you're going and what you're creating. But I know for us, first, the intention. We set an intention that we wanted more fun in our relationship.
Yep.
And then we got curious about, what does that look like to you? We had a conversation about date nights. We wanted to start dating again, but even dating, we didn't necessarily want to do romantic dinners at night
Yeah.
anymore because we have young kids and things like that. So for us, it became like, actually, my husband is like, I call him adventure boy. He loves to like do different things.
Yeah.
So it became like climbing mountains or hills or whatever we
Yeah.
could find, you know, going on hikes or doing ice baths together or things that I would never, like, I was like, I don't want to do. But actually the thought of going on a date with you to do them, I'm like, actually,
That could be cool.
that could be cool.
Yeah.
So leaning into things like that, getting curious about what fun looks like now and setting that intention. And also, I think, allowing yourself to have this dance between the masculine and the feminine. Because for me in our relationship, when I was in my masculine, there was no fun. There was a lot of structure, there was a lot of routine, there was a lot of rules. Like, I was controlling everything because
Yeah.
I didn't trust. I didn't trust that I would be supported. I didn't trust
That's
that I
me.
could rely on him. I didn't trust that everything wasn't going to fall apart. I literally thought, if I have fun and I relax and I put my guard down, this is all going to go to shit.
Yep, that's me.
That's exactly what I was as well. And
That's
so
me.
many women. So I had to edge into this. I had to just, like, because it's scary. Like, it literally feels
It's
really
scary
terrifying.
to let go.
It is,
And then I'm
100%.
like, I've never been a control freak, but it's turned into
Yeah.
I can't let you do anything,
yeah.
because if you don't get that task done, I feel so let down
Yeah.
and so personal. And it can be as something stupid as not doing the laundry or not following through or promising that you're going to go paint the wall, and then it doesn't get done. And I take that like
Personally.
and he's like, calm down, it's just a wall, or calm
Yes.
down, it's just the
Yeah.
laundry. And I'm like, it's not just the
It's
laundry
not.
to
And-
me. It's another thing that you haven't done that you promised
Yes.
that I now have to do, and it's just adding to my load. And then at night when he's like, hello.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's have a little snuggle.
Yeah.
I'm like,
are you serious?
And it's not personal. Like I look at him and I'm like, oh, hey, like I've still got that affection for him. But then just to be touched, and I'm not saying this all the time, obviously. We have a great relationship. We have a good sex life and everything. But lately I'm like, get the fuck away from me. You get that little smirky, sexy look off your face and you take that hand off my booty because I emotionally cannot give myself, not to you. This is where I'm finding it hard to explain.
Yes.
To him, it's not that I don't want to give myself to you. It's I just need some of it. I just need it
returned.
I need something. I need to be like on my own for me.
Yeah. 100%.
Not because I don't want to be with you and not like, and I feel like I can see that sign of like, it feels like rejection.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then obviously.
But what's really happening is you're rejecting yourself. So you're projecting that. And that's what you're seeing in the relationship because you need time for yourself. You want to connect inwards. You want to have that safety in your own body. And if he's like, there's two parts to this. You're not feeling that safety because he's not doing the things that make you feel safe. And I get what he means. Like, it doesn't mean anything. But the thing is, human beings are meaning-making machines, and it's never the thing. It's our relationship to the thing. So him not painting the wall, it's not really about the wall.
No.
Or the paint. It's about your relationship
the trust
to it. It's
as well.
about what it means to you. Every time he doesn't do something he said he was going to do, it erodes your trust.
Yes.
It tells you he's not reliable. He's not safe. I can't
leave those tasks with you because they might not get done. And if they don't get done, you know, like everything's going to, in my mind, everything's going to fall apart.
And if everything falls apart, what does that mean to you?
I don't know. Like it means more work for me.
Yeah.
So like it just means I'm going to have to, like, the house...
Pick up the pieces.
Pick up the pieces, get everything done.
Yeah. And it's, like, all on your shoulders. And
this has been eye-opening for me listening to you because you're Davin.
Yeah.
You are actually Davin because he relies on me to just do a few things and then I don't do it and then he gets mad at me for not doing, and then he's like, I just asked you to do 1 or 2 jobs and you didn't do it.
Yeah,
so
like
now looking at you, I'm like, this is how he must feel.
How he feels.
I have, like, the opposite effect. So, like, my brain is 24/7 on. Yeah. And I kind of enjoy the way that I think, and I am quite vulnerable, or I've learnt to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like I am thinking we've got a family, like there's 4 kids and Craig and I feel like I'm constantly getting this decision fatigue. Like I'm thinking for him, for the kids, for next week, for the car servicing, for what I have to do at work, for who else is relying on me, my everything. And then I look at him and I think, you know, I'm already making all these decisions about everything, all the small ones. Like I'm thinking about dinner. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about when swimming lesson starts. I'm thinking about paying those school fees. I'm thinking about this. And then I'm like, can you just take some of that mental load off for me? And then you look at them. I've looked at him with like, disappointment, resentment, and then the trust. I was like, this feels personal. Yeah. And it's been our biggest argument over, I think Craig and I have been together 19 years this year. Yeah. And it's our biggest thing because like we have started dates. We go on date walks.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that.
We go on beach walks. We don't spend a lot of time together, but what we have started doing is like, I've had all these light bulb moments sitting here and listening to you. Like, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I've actually had some wins out of listening. Because I was like, oh, that's great. We have actually had to change. I said, I actually do miss you. I had to admit that.
Yeah.
So, like.
And it's hard for strong women. Like,
I really
that was hard for me.
Him.
Like, because we're trained, like you said, to be strong, independent, and not need anybody. But there is this other part of us.
And I'm a feminist. Like, I'm like, I don't need no man. And then, like, I feel like I'm betraying myself by saying, like, I miss you, I need you.
But the difference there, what I say to women is you don't need a man, but you want a man. And that's okay. You want his connection. You want his love. It's so women, your feminine is driven by desire. it's okay to say yes to your desire. And that doesn't make you weak. I would say a woman who is so powerful is a woman who follows her desire, who knows she's worth her desire. And that doesn't make you not a feminist.
Yeah.
I actually think we've gone a bit too far with this feminist thing. And, you know, I think there's problems on both sides. You know, men and women have things that we need to work through. But what I find just so challenging about it is it's created a war and it's created more separation. And I think more than anything, we need this level of understanding.
Yep.
And that's the big piece in my work, because I believe masculine and feminine want to work like this. They actually want to support each other. The masculine wants to hold the container. But we have had this change in our society and in our culture where men aren't being challenged anymore. And this was the issue in my relationship. Like, my husband was like just so kind of complacent, and, you know, he was doing the surface level things like putting the bin out, mowing the lawn, doing those kind of things. But I was like, that's kind of like not enough. That's like the basic of what's required.
I'm just like, that's what you got to do when you're a team.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is our house. Actually, that took me a long time to get not the courage, because like I don't have a problem speaking with Craig, but I'm like, the courage to say, like, to get out of that way of thinking that I'm the little woman that has to stay at home and do a full-time job and be servicing you and your needs.
Yes.
It took me a long time to actually say, this is our house. When you come home from work, I did say it originally in a really in an argument.
Yes.
So I'm not going to lie. Like, this is why we want to like.
But sometimes it comes out like that. And then
That's fine.
sometimes it needs to. Like, I'm
I
not
was just
against
like,
arguing.
mate, this is our house.
Yeah.
And just because you've worked all day doesn't mean that I haven't worked on. He's like, I never said that you didn't.
Yes.
But I'm like, but I am still the primary parent and the person that is doing the majority of the household tasks.
Yes.
And it's too much, and we need to.
And we have to get to that point, like you said, where we say this is too much. I would say this is part of the problem. I was the same as you. I was taking responsibility for everybody. I was thinking for everybody, doing everything for everybody. I had to actually have a real chat with myself that I had put those expectations on my shoulders. My husband never came to me and was like, oh, here we go, here's my expectation list.
Shit.
Exactly. I had to swallow this pill
get that,
and literally go, hang on a minute, Aston, and you learnt this from somewhere. I learnt it from somewhere. And I had to break up with that connection and decide that I didn't want to be that woman. I did not.
God.
Because that woman does everything on the surface, but she is so resentful, depleted, you know, on the inside.
I've had like mega epiphany, like my head just exploded just then.
I
I
actually
learned
have-
it from somewhere.
I have more appreciation for Davin after this episode, to be honest.
love that.
Because recently to Valentine's Day, I've just actually realised what his present was. I made fun of him. He brought lube and he brought a few other things, and I made fun of it.
He was
and
presenting connection.
I sent videos to my friends. I sent it to Rose, like, look what I got for Valentine's Day. This is
And
hilarious.
I thought that was amazing.
And when actual fact, he's craving connection with
It was a big
me.
for connection.
And when I saw the photo, I was like, what a great gift.
Yeah.
And she was having a laugh. And like, we're really good mates, but I think that's also the compliment in it. Like, I'm her Davin.
Yeah.
And
Dav.
that is also a beautiful segue, because connection is different for men and women. So for men, it often is physical, but not always sexual. Sometimes it's just that they physically want to touch you. So the same as like he wanted a kiss or a cuddle, like that's affection.
Like
holding
Davin could have a
hands.
full-blown argument with
you know?
me and be ready to go in 2 seconds.
Because-
And I'd be like, get off.
Yes, and that's because for women, connection is more about, are we communicating?
Yes.
Are we on the same page? Are we working as a team? Like, and if your love language is acts of service, which must be yours, are you actually doing the acts
How
of
did you
service?
know?
You know, are you actually doing?
Oh my
the
God,
acts
I
of
find
service,
acts of
you know?
service sexy.
So
as
sexy.
Fuck.
I used to
You
as
are
well.
Davin.
I'm
I
like,
used to. Do you know, I would be so interested if
I have
you,
a secondary one.
If you leaned into your feminine and allowed yourself to rest, and I know it's going to be hard. The first time I did it, I had to lock myself outside. I'm not joking. Like, I took the keys, locked the door. I know I could have got back in, but I didn't. It was like the only way I could tell myself you have to stay outside. I locked myself outside without my phone, without anything. I think I had a book. I had a book because I knew I was going to find it hard. And my first goal was just 20 minutes by myself outside. And that sounds simple to some people. That was hard for me. If you're someone who's always doing, you're overproductive, your mind's always going, that state of rest is a really hard place to get to.
Rose can't sit still to rest. So
Yes.
she can do things for herself like going for a walk, but
Yes.
she's being active
Yes.
while she's walking.
Yeah.
She can't sit on the couch and watch an episode or a series
Yes.
because that then
That
is
would be lazy.
laziness.
Yes.
Or she has to fold laundry while she's doing
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why she has not watched maths yet.
Yes,
I know.
I saw that.
I'm
I
gonna
haven't
get
watched-
onto that.
I haven't watched maths either.
But
Oh my God, I can't deal.
Definitely what I mean, I've got to make those like moments. It's there's a laziness component
Yes.
to it, and
it's
also
your relationship to it.
Yeah.
We need to change your relationship
That's
to it.
right.
What I started telling myself was when I rest, I receive. Or I used to, before, I would say to myself, I can't rest until everything's done, which you probably say to
Yeah.
yourself. A lot of women do. So I switched it to when I rest, I have the energy to get everything done. Because the thing is, when you're getting everything done and then you rest, that's not rest. It's called burnout and exhaustion. So that's why you're never...
This is what my husband does. He
That's why
cleans,
you're
cleans,
never
cleans,
filling up.
cleans, cleans, and then he needs to rest, and then
Yes.
he's so tired.
I am the queen of burnout. I am
Yes.
I'm a constant. I get into a constant cycle of burnout, and everybody watches me do it. Everybody watches.
You're probably rewarded for it as well.
Yes, I have
And
been
She's in a-
rewarded.
you're in a burnout at the moment.
I'm in a burnout right now.
That's what makes it hard to break it. But and I've been there. I started losing my hair, and that was my turning point. I had a daughter, and I lost my
Yep.
hair, and I remember in that moment in the hairdresser's chair where it was like a 20-cent piece just in the middle of my hair. Never happened before. It wasn't actually the vanity part, which I think is also fine. But for me, it was this soul crushing feeling inside of me that I had been neglecting and abandoning myself
Oh my God.
for years.
This is years.
Like it was that moment of like,
It's like stress alopecia.
how can I?
Yeah.
It was. I was like, how have I got to this point where I am treating myself like I don't even matter in my own damn life?
And I think
like,
you think you're mad. Like you think you are looking after yourself in a way. Like the
For other
last
people.
2 kids took me to the lowest I've ever been in my life. So I had postpartum depression after Esme, and I actually still think it's one of the best things, oddly, that happened to me.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I actually have to just say this firstly is the more I'm talking to you about our relationships and couples therapies, all of these techniques that you're going through, every single time we've had a question or you're explaining something, I think you'll be the same, is I'm realizing the work. I get why you had to do the work before your relationship changed, because every single thing you're saying, it's not like, I'm the problem, it's me.
But you're also the solution.
But it's
That's-
like, it's not like it's not like our partner
Yeah.
isn't the problem.
and they have their version of this as well. But by you going on that journey, you can
Shit.
inspire them.
It's me.
You know?
Hi, I'm the problem, it's me.
But you're also the solution. And
I
this
love
is-
that.
Because
also the solution.
Exactly. We need to add that in because so many women say to me, so it's my fault. And I'm like, no, it is not your fault. You haven't failed. You learnt this from somewhere. Somebody taught you this. This is not who you are.
Oh my God,
And you
100%.
get to then take responsibility, take your power back, and then redesign how you want this
I
to
actually
look.
didn't take it like a bad thing, like I'm the problem. I took it as oh my God, if I fucking work my own shit out,
Yep.
then I'll have the capacity to sort of work on those problems together.
Yeah.
I mean,
And their shit will come up because this is what happened.
Yeah.
Like I went first and I worked through everything, but then it was like my husband was forced to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't doing those things anymore. I was showing.
what are you gonna
I was
blame?
showing
Yeah.
him appreciation. I was, I wasn't so critical. I started to like offer him words of praise because he loves that. And like when I was so critical in my masculine, I was like, praise yourself. Like I had a really hard time, and I also wasn't raised with a lot of praise. So
I was raised
again,
with zero.
it was something I had to change
Yeah.
my relationship to it. But then he had to look in the mirror, and that was the thing I wasn't expecting. Like I didn't realize how powerful that would be.
Yeah.
And that I will never forget that day where he basically said to me, I've just realized how far ahead you are and how much you've grown, and that I haven't moved, and that I have a lot of work to do.
okay, this
And-
is the question now. As soon as you said that, I know people are going to go, that's great, your husband had a realization. What happens
when they don't?
You have done all this work and you're ready, you're like, I want to save our relationship.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, whatever stage, or you're at the stage of like, fuck this, I want a divorce for real. Like, I'm so freaking done. Like, I don't even know how to repair this. And then, for example, you go and go, look, I'm going to go inwards. I'm going to do some work. Yep. But you are like dragging your partner, whoever, like, at what point do you need to go, hold on, they're not with me. They're either with me or they're without me. And have you found that sometimes, you know, people grow to a point where they're like, you know what, let's part.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's okay because I've actually grown as a person, and as much as I might actually hate them at this point. I don't know. Yeah. But like, I'm ready. Is that like, you reckon that's also reasons to like?
Definitely. And people always, people are so hung up with the word divorce. Like, it has so much like emotion attached to it for people. It doesn't have that for me anymore. Like, we've got through this challenge. Does it mean we won't get through the next one? Like, I'm under no delusion that, we could have another challenge and maybe we won't end up together. But now I'm not so scared of it. So before I was just trying to stay together, and I don't think that should be the goal. I think the goal should be to continue to grow, because if your relationship isn't growing, it's dying. And sometimes that will mean you are growing in different directions. And growth is always positive. So I always say to women, look, you need to do this work for you. If you're not happy in the relationship, drop him. Do not drag him. Do not drag him.
Love that.
Drop it, because you're not meant to have the children, your husband on your back. Yeah. You're not meant to do that. So drop them off your back. You start meeting your needs and giving yourself what you need and grow in the direction that you want to grow. He's actually not holding you back. He's not physically holding you and not allowing you to go where you want to go. And that was a realization I had to have. I was always like, he's holding me back. He's not growing enough. But he wasn't physically holding me back. Like you were saying, your husband supports whatever you wanted to do. My husband was as well. But I kind of didn't like that he wasn't joining me on the journey, because the feminine is all about that collaboration and the journey, and I wanted him to join me, but he just wasn't ready, because at the end of the day, we are two different people. We have different paths to walk. I actually had to remind myself to stop playing God or the universe and thinking that I knew where he was meant to be on his path or what he was meant to be doing. I mean, shit, I didn't even know all the time where I was meant to be or what I was meant to be doing. So I had to have this kind of real talk moment of like, hang on a minute, am I really just distracting from my path with him? Yeah. And I see a lot of women do this. Like, your relationship becomes your kryptonite and you'll like distract with it. And I had to just drop it and be like, drop the expectation, unattach from whether he joined me on the journey or not, and decide that I was doing this first for me. Because your relationships first are about how you relate to yourself. And then, that is projected out.
That's deep.
So I had to go me first, and I remember saying even to him, I'm going to do this work, and I've decided that either way it's positive. I'm either going to grow and I'm going to attract the man that I desire to meet me in the way that I desire, or you're going to step up and be that man, and we're going to create that together.
Yep.
But either way, it's positive, and either way, I can do it from a place where I don't have to hate you. I think so many people have seen these just messy breakups and like horrible divorces, and the movies kind of like elaborate it. And I don't think it has to be like that. I think if you're doing the inner work, I'm not saying there won't be challenges, but if you're doing that inner work, it doesn't have to be this, like toxic situation. We can be like grown-ups about it. We can consciously have a conversation and hear each other out, have different points of view, and be okay with that. But still meet our own needs, know?
I mean, oh my God, Ashton, we could talk to you all day, and I know this conversation is absolutely not over. I do love that you established like divorce is not a dirty word, nor should it be taboo. No. And I will say that I have seen some people divorce and be the absolute best versions of themselves,
100%.
Never been happier, and it's honestly the best thing they've ever done for themselves. And I don't think it should be something that you should be ashamed of. It fucking happens.
100%. I mean, sometimes it's needed.
It's needed.
Like, like I said in the beginning, I don't think like that there's not just one metric for a successful relationship.
That's right.
And I think people overvalue longevity. And I really think that's kind of an outdated metric. We've been together a long time, but that's not the metric I look at. I look at how connected are we? Are we growing? Do we have joint values and goals? Like, are we actually, do we still feel that passion? Is that spark still alive?
Yeah.
And they're the metrics that I'm looking at, you know,
Exactly.
not the longevity.
And I think that's something beautiful to leave people with to have a think about.
Yeah.
Like all the things that she's just mentioned in regards to what do you want from your relationship?
Yeah.
What do you want to achieve together? And like, where are you now? Like, just have conversations, keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
And honestly, we're going to revisit this.
I think we decided that we definitely want to have Aston come on the potty kind of regular to discuss
to come and chat to you
to
guys.
discuss things.
Yeah, because
all
it's
things
just
bearing it all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love
It's
it.
not enough time to have you on just for like just over an hour because we, like Crystal said, like there's just so many
much.
different aspects to relationships that you want to unpack. So we will encourage that if you have any questions or anything that you want, any topics that are burning within you regarding your relationship, about couples, anything like that, please do send them in to us, DM us, and we will unpack them with Aston again on another episode. But in regards to all Aston's details, where you can find her, we will pop them in the show notes. If you just want to give us a little rundown on where we can find you on your
Yeah,
website.
definitely. I've loved this chat, so I'm super excited to continue this conversation with you beautiful women. So you can find me on Instagram, Aston_Simmonds. All my details are there, or astonsimmonds.com is my website. And yeah, in the show notes will be all of the offerings that I have and how I can support you if you want to know, like, how do I recreate my relationship? We have a 4-week program where we can take you through that, and it's probably one of our most popular programs.
Yeah.
So you can check that out. We're actually running our first retreat in Perth this weekend for
Amazing.
couples in person.
So
Which is
good.
really exciting.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. So yeah, honestly, but also just feel free to DM me any questions.
Yeah.
I have conversations in DMs all the time. As you can see, I'm pretty open to talk about this
Yeah,
stuff.
she shares a lot on her socials, hacks, tips, tricks. So it's definitely worth giving her a follow over there. But like I said, I've finished this conversation. I feel like I've got a fucking million questions that I have to ask.
I'm getting the lube out tonight.
I love that.
Actually, it's really cool lube, and I really want to unpack that too, because that's going to be another little episode. That
Oh my God, do I need to talk about how my son found it and then Googled what it was?
That's another episode altogether. But in the meantime, we want to make sure that you are tuning into us on our next episode, and make sure that you always take care of yourselves.
And you take care of each other.
See you later, guys.
Bye.